Hello, Sean. Thanks for your time.
No worries.
We're looking at the table. Palace 6 points ahead of you, similar goal difference, but obviously you've got that game in hand. So a win on Saturday, they're another team you can claw back.
Yeah, I mean, we're not too worried about who we're clawing back. We are definitely in the business of getting points on the table. So that's our focus. The idea of certain teams and certain performances, certain results, kind of somewhat this season is being topsy-turvy a little bit for all teams, including ourselves. Recently had a run of games where people probably didn't think we'd get much, and we turned over some really good points. So, it's more about points on the board than worried about where Palace are and where we are.
They just don't win Premier League games without Wilf Zaha.
Well, stats obviously suggest that that's the case. I'm not saying it's that easy. Our intent and purpose is to go and perform to win, obviously. But we don't take it for granted if Zaha's not available that's the case. They've got very good players there, very good manager. So, we've certainly got to be delivering the right performance to get what we want down there.
How much healthier could the Premier League look for you by the end of next week? Because obviously you've got on paper, that old phrase on paper, some winnable games the next three.
Yeah, I mean, look, certain teams have different challenges during a Premier League season, but like I say, this season's slightly more, it seems to me, slightly more topsy-turvy. The two results for ourselves and Brighton at Liverpool being a great example of it. Sheffield United going to Man U and things like that. So, look, the thing I know about the Premier League is all games are important. Of course, statistically, you have a better chance against certain teams. But it doesn't make them make or break. It just makes them better statistical chances of getting results just in our history of being in the Premier League. There's still good sides. They're still active. Everyone's fighting. Everyone's alive. Sheffield United have certainly shown a strong sign of that lately. Of staying in the task of what it is, the journey of a Premier League season. But in reflection on that, they are important games for different reasons. But like I say, you can argue that with all games. Recently, I suggested, went through a run of games where people probably didn't think we were going to get anything really. We come away with 6 points out of 4 very tough games, and I think that's a healthy return. We've got to keep to that form. We've got to keep winning games. I thought we were very good in the last game against Brighton, and arguably certainly deserved to get more than just a point in that game. But that doesn't guarantee the next one. So the importance and the focus is on the next game rather than the next 3. It's just on the next one, which is Palace.
You mentioned the Brighton game, and according to the stats that I've read, I'm sure you've read the same ones, 20 shots on goal in that game, which is more than all the other 4 previous Premier League games added together. What does that say?
Well, it says that we're trying to adjust the balance of creativity and defensive responsibility. It's an ongoing challenge for a lot of teams in the Premier League, including ourselves. That was a clear example of when we get it right. We did concede in that game, but I thought we defended very well as attacked very well. The main thing is getting the quality of chances and taking them. It's for us, our Premier League history doesn't suggest we create 20-odd chances per game, but it does suggest we can create quality chances and take them quality chances. So I'm more interested in that rather than the amount.
Roy Hodgson, obviously the veteran of the league. Actually, his teams are the veterans as well. The oldest average age in the Premier League so far. Burnley second, as it happens. So is it like the OAP derby?
It seems a bizarre tag when you're talking about footballers who are like 29 years old. And the way footballers are nowadays, it's fair to say they're certainly fitter than my era and the way they look after themselves. So if you're an OAP in the Premier League at 29, I would suggest that's an interesting viewpoint for real OAPs of the world. Look, they've like ourselves, they've got a different challenge, slightly different. They've got a higher sort of spending power than us. To get the right players in is difficult enough. To get them the right players in at the right age, the right bracket, the right level to perform in the Premier League is a very, very expensive business. So we've had to develop players over many years to be Premier League players, and sometimes take players who, just needed dusted down and polishing back up again. They're difficult to find if they're 25 and they're high flying, because quite obviously the price tag goes with that. So, slightly different to Palace. They do invest more so in the way they buy players. But it's a kind of a situation that's kind of grown on clubs like ourselves when we've got very good players, very good professionals. They know what they're doing, and they increase our chances of playing well and performing in the Premier League, I feel. And then if we adjust that with some players like Dwight McNeil and the likes, and Josh Brownhill who are coming through, Charlie Taylor somewhat, these are players who develop the team further than just some of the older players who do very well for us.
We've got the beast of the East down here as well. Very, very cold. You're going to bring the trusty coat out again?
I'd be really surprised if it's colder than up here. It's virtually impossible, actually, on today's weather. Wind smashing across the valley like we're in. But, it's fair to say that it's brutal up here at the moment, as across the rest of the UK and other places, but very brutal up here at the moment. We're certainly the weather won't be a big concern to us.
And the coat? Another outing?
Well, I was aware you dropped that in, expecting me to deliver on that coat gag. But it's fair to say it's not my first rodeo, so let's leave that one for today.
And just finally, you don't do social media, do you, Sean? Are you glad now you see some of the stuff that's flying about?
Well, once again, there's always that kind of angle on my view on social media. I'll clear it up once again. I have absolutely nothing against social media. My children indulge in somewhat of it, not all of it. It's just merely a case of, well, what's been shown lately. I think the question mark for a lot of people, not just for me in the football industry, is sometimes whether it's needed or not for players, coaches, managers, etc., etc. It's a question mark. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. And also the governance of it. I think we've all been wondering that over these years. And the governance of it is a key factor, because people do if you talk about freedom of speech, it's probably the freest thing that people can use, seemingly, to say whatever they want. So, but I think many people from many areas and walks of life have been asking about the governance of social media for a long time. Maybe there's an effect on it coming, I don't know. But that's for governments. It's not for me to decide, that's for sure.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go from Gary Bus Patrol to Sam Younggun Ashu, please.
Only just. Hiya, Sean. Nice to see you. I'll start with injuries, if you don't mind. I heard you talking on the radio this morning, but just wanted to check. Charlie Taylor, Chris Wood, Josh Brownhill, Robbie Brady, Jack Cork and Nick Pope. How are they all looking?
Yeah, Corky and Popey recovered, trained today. That's good news. Charlie Taylor getting fitter, be touch and go. Robbie Brady, similar but different to Charlie. It's the risk and reward of playing these guys. Woody is a doubt for the weekend. I forgot the other one. There's one more in there.
Nick Pope.
No, Nick Pope. No, he's settled down. Josh Brownhill, sorry, he was the other one.
Brownhill.
Yeah, Josh Brownhill. Yeah, Josh Brownhill. He settled down. It was a soft tissue injury, so we're pleased with that. But it has kept him a bit longer than we thought. But that's certainly settling down now. So he'd certainly be in with a chance, I would say, for the weekend.
Good stuff. Palace themselves have up to 10 key players missing. As brutal as it sounds, is this perhaps one of the better times to play them this season?
Well, we've been through that situation. I still saw the side they put out the other night. I think it's still a fair side. There's no two ways about that. But yeah, I mean, look, I think this season has had a bigger challenge, not just on ourselves. Ours has been quite obvious on the injury side of things, but I think a number of clubs have been missing players at any one given time, and it's been tricky. I don't think there's any blame attached. There's some bits of common sense by the Premier League when they've put games in where they don't need to. I don't feel. But that's the way it goes. Once they're in there, we get on with it. That's the fixture list. But it's seemingly the point across the league has had an effect, with the amount of games and the timing schedules of games. In balance that, we all know the challenges of it. We all know that everyone's trying to deliver football under very awkward circumstances, with all that's going on in the world. So we're all doing the best job we can.
And just finally from me, Sean, can I ask you about the news this morning regarding the women's team? It seems like a really big step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the club continues to evolve, both on and off the pitch with its organisation, its viewpoint. Obviously, women's football has grown a lot in the last, certainly in the last 3 or 4 years. I think the American, ideals of women's football was in front of the curve. I think it was a more powerful force. Obviously, our ownership now being American as well, I think there was a thirst from that and for the club to continue moving forward, like I say. So I think it's a good thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Alex Howell, please, BBC.
Hi, Sean.
Hiya.
No, it's been mentioned that Wolf Zaha is out for Crystal Palace, but do you still know what you're going to get from a Roy Hodgson team?
Well, I think, you're going to get a team that's willing and committed to the cause. I think they're always organised. They have got some players who can open situations up. I appreciate, that it looks like Zaha won't be there, but he's one player that can. There's others as well. I think that Roy's a very, very clever football fella. He's been around the block. He knows the script. He knows how to work with his players. And Ray Lewington, of course. Although I think he might be locked down at the minute. I'm not sure. Someone mentioned that earlier on because he's someone I know. But no, these are people who have been around the game a long time. They know how to work with a group even through the challenges of injury.
And you've taken 22 points from your last 16. Do you feel more in the groove? I know you always say you feel like your Burnley team really grow into the second half of the season.
Yeah, statistically, we've been very strong in the second half of seasons, physically that is. I mean, you can't always guarantee the result sides, although I think we have been, generally speaking. But I think the physical demands of the game, we've always been strong with that. We want to make sure the players are in good shape to deliver again on a physical level, because if you get that right, you get your performances right, and of course your quality, then it increases your chances of winning. And we've shown that a lot over the second half of the season. We've got to do that again this season to make sure that we look after ourselves.
That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Dan Black.
Quick drink, hang on, 2 seconds.
Dan Jules, sorry. Radio Lancashire.
Dan Black is not going to take
Dan the man, what's happening?
No, you're right.
Imagine being mistaken for me. What a horrible thing.
You are correct.
I am correct.
Sorry, did I say that out loud? I meant to keep that bit in.
Yeah, there's a habit of that happening when we talk.
You are correct with that too.
You went through the list of players who you're missing, who hopefully will be on their way back. It's 3 games in a week again. I think it's the penultimate time that's going to happen according to the current schedule. Just how hard has it been to kind of get these players patched up and look after them as best you can with the schedule that you've had?
Yeah, it's certainly been the toughest period, or long period, I must say. We've had pockets where it's been really tough with injuries. We had the beginning of the Europa season was very difficult with injuries as well, and smaller numbers, and not heavy investment on the numbers that we needed at that stage. Similar but different this time round. Lost players rather than gained players. That is, in the recruitment side of things. And then you go into after lockdown, we had injuries, but then by the time the next season starts, you're imagining that, some of them have been dealt with and fit and ready, or getting fit and ready. It turns out they weren't, so that elongated that injury spell. And then once we got them back, we started getting other injuries. So, look, we're trying to define the reasons. I've been here, long enough to know our analysis and how we work and how we train. So we're reasonably happy with that side of things. We're always looking to tweak it, of course. It's hard to look beyond the game scheduling because we've played a lot more games, and the other thing is a lot stranger times, a lot different formats to the games. And like I say, it's not a gripe or a moan, it's just a reality. It factually is different. So we've had to challenge ourselves to manage that wisely, or the best we can, and also the players with their performance levels to win games and recover and get ready to go again. And it's been difficult. We have, every time we just about get there, more drop down, and it's really difficult on that side of things.
Have you looked into it in more detail this season, Sean? I appreciate you've been manager for a long time, but have you looked into the kind of the root causes of injuries and training workload and stuff players do in their own time and things like that because of the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, the balance of what you do and the analysis you've got is kind of, it's not perfect in the sense that the game scheduling, the amount of games is completely different to the norm. So therefore, the analysis can only push you in somewhat of a right direction. We're learning as we go with what's happening at the moment, the varying times and different game schedules. And I suggest, there's the odd game where you think that the Premier League put somewhere else and they've decided not to. And that's one of the challenges we have as clubs, not just us, many clubs, many managers have faced that challenge. The recovery schedule's in-house, don't forget. There's been a period lately because of the spike where we couldn't feed the players properly in-house, and that's not ideal. Or not properly in the sense of what we'd like to feed them with, more like snack boxes and things. We couldn't have a canteen where they can eat normally or somewhat normally with all the right guidelines. So that adds a bit more on the recovery and the fueling to go again. They can do that in their private lives, of course, but it's helpful if you can, we certainly try and govern the breakfast and lunch idea, so they're the key times before training and after training. So that's different. You add in the game schedules, you add in the amount of players that you're missing, therefore more players are playing more football. There's a lot going on, and like I say, there's not gripes. I'm just explaining the truth of the matter. It's no excuses. These are the realities. This is what we deal with. This is what we've got to keep working through. So far, we are working through it, and the players are working very hard, and that's what we've got to continue doing.
Palace at home, Sean, was the first Premier League win of the season back in November, I think it was, wasn't it? How significant was that, and how much have things changed since then?
It's to get your first win is always gets the story to change somewhat. Home win, then away win, and then the story softens a little bit. We have added on the back of that with a good points total, into very tough games as well, and come out the right side. Excuse me, a couple got away from us. Look, all sides are, decent in the Premier League. Palace certainly are. Stories of ifs, buts and maybes and injuries and all the rest of it. When the whistle blows, that all goes out the window. I've been pleased with our recent performances against some very good sides. Our last performance out against Brighton, I thought, was very strong. Arguably, certainly the second half, one of the strongest performances we've had this season. We didn't get the win, but I thought, if anyone was going to win it, it'd be us. And we work well at both ends of the pitch. So we've got to do that again. We've got to go down there with the right attitude and the right mentality to take the game on. I feel that's a strong point of ours, to have the mentality to challenge ourselves in these games. That's got to continue. It's simple as that. We've got ourselves in reasonable shape, I think, from where we were at game 8. And now it's about building on that and continuing the sort of push down the rest of the season to play well and perform well in order to get what we want, which is, of course, more wins.
Have you got good memories of Selhurst Park? You obviously won there last season.
And generally speaking, I've enjoyed going down there. And there's, look, it's hard without the fans. There's usually a good atmosphere there. Fans make it a good atmosphere down there. It's different. We all know that. But generally speaking, we've fared reasonably down there. But it's not an exact science at some grounds. You've got to go. It still comes down to performances. I talk about it a lot because I believe in it wholeheartedly. You get the odd scrape, you get the odd lucky one, of course, and we'd all take them. Every Premier League manager will take the indifferent performance, but to win. But generally speaking, you want performances where there's a future in it. And I think since game 8, and we've got players stronger and fitter and sharper, we've looked like we can perform, and there's a future in what we're doing. The way we're performing, the way we're taking games on, and that's an important factor. It doesn't guarantee you anything, but it gives you a whole better chance if you're performing in a manner that can win games.
Just on the lack of fans, the Premier League stats, I think, show that away wins are up this season, which I don't think is a huge surprise. Do you still find it to be less enjoyable and less of an experience when you go away from home and there's no supporters there, even though it would be traditionally more hostile?
Yeah, look, part of what you do as a footballer, particularly the players, is the fan effect, and what it is to play in front of a crowd. I think that's all part of it. The buzz and excitement of being a player. As a manager, it's slightly different. Your focus is on a whole group. It's not just you as an individual. And of course, some fans at some clubs are interesting. Always get a few nice messages delivered with aplomb usually. So there's one or two of them. But generally speaking, I think, excuse me, it's good for all grounds and all clubs to have fans in. I think everyone can't wait for that to happen. As we know, the world's got to correct itself and the UK's got to correct itself first. But I think it'll be great if that happens and we can get fans in, whether it's home and away. It's one of them things. Fans do make football what it is in many ways and many formats, particularly in stadiums.
I just wanted to finish by asking one on the women's team that you touched on earlier on. We talked before about your son being, a fledgling footballer. You've got a daughter as well. How good is it that...
Trust me, that's not going to be the one.
No, I didn't mean that.
That's not her bag. She likes watching us though. She enjoys the games, but no. She's not too interested in playing football.
But it's great, isn't it, that young girls now...
Oh yeah, terrific. Yeah, terrific. It's a terrific game, shared by all. More so going up through the last. I don't know where it really started. It's maybe 10 years, maybe beyond that. I'm on about younger girls' teams and stuff. Yeah, great. I mean, that really is good. It should be all-inclusive sport. It's getting that way. And growing in the women's game as well. We all know that. And so our club is going to be part of that moving forward. So, yeah, definitely all for that.
And she likes watching. Does she give you feedback? Do you get criticism?
Yeah, she's improving all the time. Probably the last year or so, actually, the last year, 18 months, she's really got more into it. And she watches the games now, and she's getting an eye for it. She's understanding what's going on. Always feeding back on what I should do and what I shouldn't do. But then generally that's the women in my life. So that's a standard sort of situation.
Know your place, Sean.
Of course.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Dan. Ian Parker, please. Press Association.
Sean, just one from me, because the chaps have covered a lot of ground. I just wanted to ask, obviously you had that run of 3 wins in a row a few weeks ago. It's now 4 without a win. Is there any detectable change in mood in the players at all? Do you see that during times like this?
No. Reality of the Premier League, played some top sides. If you turn that around the other way, 6 points out of 4 games that people didn't think we'd get a point out of, probably. And then we played Brighton, delivered a very good performance, a winning draw, as one of my managers used to call it, a winning draw. I think these are the realities of the Premier League. We're well enough versed in it. It's not about the feeling about it. It's about the realities for us. That can happen against Chelsea, Man City, sides like that. You've got to take on the next challenge. A good run, bad run doesn't guarantee the next one. So, we've got to focus on that. Make sure that we're delivering a performance. Always been the key to it for me, and we'll continue to do that.
Thanks, Ian. That it for you, Ian, yeah? Okay. Thank you. And finally, in the broadcast section, we'll go to Jacob Crook from Lancs Live, please.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
I know you said about Jack Cork having a bit of a knock last week, but just how good is it to have him back in the squad and adding competition to midfield?
Yeah, definitely. He's historically been a very good player for us, been a very good pro all of his life. Knows the game inside out and delivers good performances for us. There's a real competitive element. I think Dale Stevens is getting stronger now, getting more used to what we do, getting that real fitness and grounding fitness. Josh, of course, Corky coming back in. West, who's been a reliable performance for a long time and stays fit and well. So, there's a good quartet there of really good players, I feel.
And as you say, with Josh as well, obviously playing on Tuesday night, them sort of experiences are valuable, aren't they? Yeah,
Benno's learning and improving. He's sitting behind them 4 at the minute, very experienced and good players, but he's learning and improving. He continues to do so. These are invaluable moments when he gets to play and gets on the pitch, as in Gleno the other night and Joel as well, and varying players have had a little taste of it. They're really important moments for these players.
Super. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Hello Clarets fans, Phil Bird here. Make sure you subscribe to Burnley's official YouTube channel and turn on notifications, otherwise you might miss moments like this. Oh, what a goal! And Wood was there to finish it! We hope you enjoyed the video and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Up the Clarets.